Everest is a mountain full of stories and records, but often there are no stories with happy ending, like that of Hannelore Schmatz, the first woman to die on Everest. Hannelore Schmatz was a German mountaineer who was the fourth woman to summit Mount Everest. She collapsed and died as she was returning from the summiting Everest. Schmatz was the first woman to die on the upper slopes of Everest. In 1979, Hannelore Schmatz was the fourth woman to summit Mount Everest and the first woman to die there. German mountaineer Hannelore Schmatz loved to climb. In 1979, accompanied by their husband, Gerard, Schmatz embarked on their most ambitious expedition yet, the summit of Mount Everest. Their journey back down would end in a devastating tragedy as Schmatz ultimately lost her life, making her the first woman and the first German national to die on Mount Everest. For years following her death, Hannelore Schmatz's mummified corpse, identifiable by the backpack pushed against it, would be a gruesome warning for other mountaineers attempting to the same feat that killed her. In July 1979, everything was prepared and ready to go, and a group of 8 mountaineers began their trek along with 5 Sherpas, local Himalayan mountain guides, to help lead the way. They reached the Camp 4 at the so-called. The group decided to set up their last high camp, splitting into large groups of 2. The husband and wife are divided. Hannelore Schmatz is in one group with other climbers and 2 Sherpas, while the rest are with her husband in the other. Gerard's group reached the south summit of Mount Everest at about 2 p.m. on the 1st of October 1979. While the group celebrates, Gerard noticed the hazardous condition from the southern summit to the peak. The snow is too soft to reach reasonably reliable levels and too deep to find ice for the crampons. How fatal that is can they be measured if you know that this place is probably one of the most designed in the world. When they arrived back at the South Col at the Camp 4 at 7 p.m. that night, his wife group arriving there about the same time Gerard had reached Everest Peak, had already set up camp to get ready for Hannelore group's own ascent to the summit. Gerard and his group members warned Hannelore and the others about the bad snow and ice condition, and tried to persuade them not to go, but was unheard. Hannelore Schmatz and her group began their climb from the so-called to reach Mount Everest summit at around 5 a.m. At about 6 p.m., Gerard receives news over the expedition walkie-talkie communication that his wife has made it into the summit with the rest of the group. Hannelore Schmatz was the 4th woman mountaineer in the world to reach Everest Peak. However, Hannelore's journey back down was riddled with danger. According to the survey group members, Hannelore and the American climber Ray Guinnett became too exhausted to continue. They wanted to stop and set up a bivouac camp, a sheltery outcropping, before continuing their descent. Sherpas, who were with Hannelore and Guinnett, warned against the climbers' decision. They were in the middle of the dead zone, where conditions are so dangerous that climbers are most vulnerable to catch death there. The Sherpas advised the climbers to form on so that they could make it back to the base camp further down the mountain. But Guinnett had reached his breaking point and stayed, leading to his death from hypothermia. Shaken by the loss of their comrade, Hannelore and the 2 other Sherpas decided to continue their trek down. But it was too late. Hannelore's body had begun to succumb to the devastating climate. She died at 39. The body of Hannelore Schmatz greeted climbers for years following her death. Hannelore corpse stayed at the very spot where she drew her last breath, horrifically mummified by the extreme cold and snow right of the path many other Everest climbers would hike. Her death gained notoriety among climbers because of the condition of her body, frozen a place for climbers to see along the mountain's southern route. A Sherpa and Nepalese police inspector tried to recover her body in 1984, but both men fell to their deaths. Since that attempt, the mountain eventually took Hannelore Schmatz. A gust of wind pushed her body and it tumbled over the side of the Gangskung face where no one would see it again, lost forever to the elements. Some 150 bodies inhabit Mount Everest, many of them in the so-called dead zone. Despite the snow and ice, Everest remains most dry in terms of relative humidity. The bodies are remarkably persevered and serve as warnings to anyone who attempts something foolish.